3 Crix juveniles are in Supply Deck 7, and we have 14 minutes before mandatory atmospheric purge. Commander Kelthas's words cut through the station's emergency channel like a blade through flesh. Around the command center, every species-specific anatomy signaled the same universal response: terror. Amelia Williams looked up from her cargo manifest, blinking at the flashing red alerts painting the walls. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Wait, you're going to kill them? Evacuate immediately. Zilax barked through the comms, his secondary mandibles clicking rapid fire. All personnel to emergency pods. This is Class 5 hazard protocol. Lethal force authorized. Atmospheric vent in 13 minutes, 40 seconds. Amelia grabbed a container of protein bars from her desk. Has anyone actually looked at them? Like, properly looked? Kelthas's head snapped toward her, his ocular membranes flaring wide. You're still in that sector? Get to the pods now, Williams. Crix juveniles are apex predators. One scratch transmits their genetic marker. Parent tracking becomes absolute. They've already compromised 2 days of rations. The parent is 3 systems out and accelerating. Do you understand what that means? Yeah. It means some kids got separated from their mom, and they're probably scared out of their minds. Amelia was already walking toward Supply Deck 7, tucking the protein bars under her arm. The command channel exploded with overlapping voices, Zilax shouting orders to the security team, someone from medical screaming about inadequate antivenin supplies, a navigation officer reporting the parent Crix's trajectory updates. Through it all, Kelthas's voice rose above. Galactic Emergency Protocol 7 is in effect. I am authorized to neutralize the threat by any means necessary. Williams, you are in direct violation. Has anyone tried just talking to them first? Amelia interrupted, rounding the corner toward the supply deck. Security barriers had already slammed down, but her clearance code overrode them. Silence. Then, talking? Kelthas sounded like she'd suggested breathing vacuum. To Crix? Yeah. You know, communication. Did anyone even try before jumping straight to let's murder some hungry kids? They're not, Zilax started. 11 minutes. Kelthas cut in. Williams, stop moving toward that deck. Security feeds show active threat display. Hissing, spinal ridge extension, chemical marker release. These are hunting behaviors. Amelia pulled up the security feed on her wrist display as she walked. 3 creatures, each about the size of a large dog, huddled in the corner of the supply room. Their sleek, scaled bodies pressed together, heads low. One clutched a ration pack between serrated foreclaws. That's not hunting behavior, she said slowly. That's fear aggression. Look at their posture. They're cornered and defensive, not predatory. Your human pattern recognition is irrelevant, Zilax snapped. Crix juveniles have been documented in 47 attack scenarios across 12 systems. The survival rate for personnel who encounter them is 4%. The parent will track their distress markers through hull plating, through vacuum, through anything. When it arrives and finds its offspring dead near our crew, it will systematically dismantle this entire station. Our only chance is disposal before it arrives, followed by full decontamination. Or, Amelia said, keying in her override code at the supply deck entrance, we could try not killing them, just throwing that out there as an option. 10 minutes, Kelthas said, his voice dropping to something that might have been pleading. Williams, I am begging you. Get to an escape pod. We've already lost 6 stations to Kirik's rage hunts. I cannot let this be the 7th. The parent's accelerating, someone reported. Updated ETA, 74 minutes. Tranquilizer team is in position, Xelax announced, preparing to breach and neutralize. Amelia opened the door to Supply Deck 7. The cubs whirled toward her, a chorus of hisses erupting from their throats. Spinal ridges flared in threat display, talons extended, eyes, 6 per cub, arranged in twin rows, fixed on her with predatory intensity. Their scales shifted from mottled brown to aggressive crimson patterns. "Hey there," Amelia said softly, staying in the doorway. She sat down slowly, crossing her legs, and placed the container of protein bars on the floor in front of her. "Rough couple of days, huh?" Through the comms, she heard what sounded like several species choking simultaneously. "Williams, get out!" Xelax started. She muted her comm and looked at the cubs. Really looked at them. Their ridges were flared, yes, but their bodies remained pressed together, tails wrapped around each other, the smallest one partially hidden behind its siblings. Their eyes were wide, not with hunting focus, but with the unmistakable glaze of panic. "You got lost," she said quietly, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Wandered into the cargo bay exploring, couldn't figure out how to get back out. Probably too scared to go through all the corridors with big aliens walking around. So you've been hiding here, snatching food when you could." The largest cub tilted its head slightly, the hissing diminishing to a low rattle. Amelia slid the container forward a few inches. On the security feeds, broadcast to the entire command center and probably half the station, 3 Crix juveniles watched a human sitting calmly on the floor, offering them food. Behind her, very distantly, Amelia heard alarms counting down to atmospheric purge. "Yeah," she said to the cubs, unmuting her comm. "That's what I thought. Commander, we're not venting this deck, and someone tell that tranquilizer team to stand down before I really get annoyed." The comms exploded again, but Amelia was already reaching into the container, pulling out a protein bar and tearing it open. With her teeth, no threatening movements, no sudden gestures. Just a person having a snack while sitting on the floor. The smallest cub's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. 8 minutes to purge, Kalthas said, and his voice had gone very quiet. "Williams, what are you doing?" Amelia took a bite of the protein bar, chewed, swallowed. "Making friends, Commander. You should try it sometime." She broke off a piece and tossed it gently toward the cubs. It landed halfway between them. The largest cub's eyes tracked the morsel. Then, slowly, so slowly, it crept forward. The largest cub reached the piece of protein bar. Its foreclaws, each tipped with talons capable of shearing through reinforced durasteel, delicately picked up the food. It sniffed once, twice, then consumed it in a single bite. "Impossible," Xelax breathed through the comm. It should have triggered feeding frenzy. The scent of food in the presence of hunger should override all other neurological function in juvenile Crix. Amelia broke off another piece, tossed it a little closer to herself this time. Maybe they're just polite. "Tranquilizer team, prepare to fire on my mark," Kalthas ordered. "If this goes wrong, it won't," Amelia said, watching the cubs. The largest one had crept forward again, now only 3 feet from her. The other 2 remained pressed together, watching. "Trust me." "Trust is not a tactical advantage against Class 5 predators." A new voice cut in, sharp, clinical, female. "Commander Kalthas, this is Vexia from the Galactic Predator Response Unit. I'm docking now. Do not engage until I arrive." Amelia glanced at her wrist display. Oh, good. More people who want to kill hungry kids. She made a soft clicking sound with her tongue. The kind of sound she'd make to encourage a nervous cat. The kind of sound that, according to every xenobiological database in the galaxy, should mean absolutely nothing to a Kyrix. All three cubs' heads snapped toward her. Did they just... Someone started. Tranquilizers ready, Zillax reported. Metabolism readings show standard sedatives will be purged in 30 seconds. We'd need continuous dosing, which means you'd kill them, Amelia finished. She clicked her tongue again, and the smallest cub made a sound. Not a hiss, but something softer, almost inquisitive. See? Communication. Kyrix don't respond to auditory signals, Zillax said flatly. Their hearing range doesn't overlap with most species' vocal frequencies. It's documented across 4,000 research papers. Uh-huh. Amelia slid the entire container forward, stopping it just within the largest cub's reach. Well, someone forgot to tell them that. The cub looked at the container, looked at Amelia, looked back at the container. Sonic repellents online, the security officer reported. Activating on Deck 7 perimeter. A high-pitched whine filled the air, specifically calibrated to cause discomfort in Crick's neurological systems. The cub's ears twitched slightly, but they didn't move. Didn't even look away from Amelia and the food. They're ignoring it, the security officer said, disbelief saturating every syllable. Frequency is correct, amplitude is correct. But they're not reacting. Chemical barriers deployed, another voice added. Pheromone repellent dispersing now. Amelia wrinkled her nose as an acrid smell filled the supply deck, a compound designed to trigger flight responses in predatory species. That's disgusting. You guys smell this? The cubs sneezed in unison, but stayed put. 6 minutes to atmospheric purge, Kyle Thas said quietly. Unless you're calling it off, Commander? A pause, then, hold purge sequence. I want to see where this goes. The supply deck door hissed open, and Vexia strode in. A Velkari, all angular features and crystalline thought patterns, carrying enough weaponry to take down an adult Kyrix. Her 4 eyes swept the scene. Humans sitting on floor, 3 juvenile predators, protein bars scattered between them. 40 years, she said, her voice tight. 40 years studying apex predators across 70 systems, and I have never seen this. See what? Amelia asked, breaking open another protein bar. Juvenile Kyrix in active hunger state, maintaining proximity to prey species without attacking. Vexia's scanner hummed as she took readings. Their cortisol levels are elevated, stress response. But adrenaline is dropping. Defensive posture is softening. This violates every documented behavior pattern in the xenobiological archive. The largest cub reached into the container and pulled out a full protein bar. Instead of tearing into it immediately, it looked at Amelia, then at its siblings. Oh, you're a good one, Amelia murmured, making sure everyone gets some. The cub divided the bar into 3 pieces, remarkably precise for talons that size, and carried them back to its siblings. Vexia's scanner clattered to the floor. They're sharing, she whispered. Kyrix juveniles don't share. They compete. It's fundamental to their development, establishing hierarchy through resource competition. This can't. Parent Kyrix entering system boundary? The navigation officer reported. ETA 90 minutes. Amelia pulled a water container from her belt, opened it, and poured some into a shallow maintenance tray she'd grabbed from the wall. She slid it toward the cubs. Here you go, poor babies. You must be so thirsty. Poor babies? Xilax repeated. They're classified biological weapons. The smallest cub approached the water, drank deeply, then made that soft, inquisitive sound again. Yeah, you're welcome, Amelia said, smiling. The cub froze. All 3 cubs froze, their eyes, all 18 of them, locked onto Amelia's face, specifically onto her teeth. Showing teeth is an aggression display, Vexia said urgently. Williams, stop smiling. But the cubs weren't displaying threat responses. The smallest one tilted its head, took 1 step closer, then another. Its spinal ridges were flat against its back, its tail uncurled from its siblings. It sat down 3 inches from Amelia's knee. What? Kael'thas said. In the name of every star in the void is happening on my station. Amelia reached out slowly, painfully slowly, and the cub didn't move. Her fingertips brushed the scales behind its ear. The cub leaned into her touch and started purring. That's not possible, Vexia said. Crics don't purr. They don't have the anatomical structures for... The rumbling sound from the cub's chest said otherwise. Vexia collapsed onto a supply crate, her weapon clattering forgotten beside her. 40 years. 40 years of research, field work, direct observation across 70 systems. Meaningless. Completely meaningless. The other 2 cubs had finished their food and were now sitting, just sitting, near Amelia, watching her scratch their sibling's ear ridge. The smallest one had its eyes half closed, that impossible purring sound vibrating through the deck plating. They should be in kill frenzy, Vexia continued, staring at her scanner like it had personally betrayed her. Juvenile crics in hunger state experience complete neurological override. Every synaptic pathway redirects to hunt, kill, consume. It's not behavior, it's biology. They can't override it any more than you can stop your heart from beating. Uh-huh. Amelia moved her hand to scratch behind the second cub's ear. It leaned into her touch immediately. Or maybe they're just scared kids who got separated from their mom. Crics don't experience fear, Vexia said automatically. Apex predators lack the neurological architecture for everything with a pulse gets scared. Amelia chuckled, gesturing at the cubs with her free hand. Look at them. Really look. Ears flat, that's stress. Tails tucked under their bodies. Defensive posture. They've been pressing together for mutual comfort. These aren't hunting behaviors. These are fear responses. Parent crics now 1 hour out, the navigation officer reported, his voice strained. Approaching at speeds that should be physically impossible for a vessel that size. Kael'thas leaned forward in his command chair. Williams, walk me through your assessment. Slowly. Amelia nodded, still petting the cubs. Okay, so these 3 probably wandered away from Mom. Juveniles explore, right? Got curious, ended up in our cargo bay during a supply transfer. By the time they realized they were lost, the bay doors had sealed. They tried to find their way back, but... She gestured around the supply deck. Stations are mazes. Lots of big scary aliens walking around. They probably tried a few corridors, got spooked, ran back here. Been hiding ever since. The rations, Xilax said. Desperation, not aggression. They're kids. They got hungry. They found food. They took it. Amelia shrugged. Pretty straightforward. No, Vexia said sharply. No, it's not. Carrick's juveniles are apex predators from birth. They don't experience fear because they've never needed to. They're born at the top of the food chain. Are they, though? Amelia looked up at the security camera, directly at Vexia. Because right now they look like three terrified children who've been lost and alone for 2 days. You see predators. I see scared babies. The largest cub, the one who'd shared the food with its siblings, moved closer to Amelia. It lowered its head and gently bumped against her shoulder. The command channel went silent. 45 minutes, someone whispered. Kael'thas stood slowly. If the parent arrives and finds its offspring dead, we know the outcome. But if... He paused. If the parent arrives and finds them alive. And calm, Amelia added. And safe, and clearly being cared for. You're suggesting we attempt communication with an adult Crix? Vexia's voice was flat. That's never been done. First time for everything. Amelia looked down at the smallest cub, who had rolled partially onto its back, exposing its vulnerable underbelly while she scratched its chest. Look at this. Tell me what you see. Vexia pulled up the security feed on her datapad, stared at it for a long moment. Trust display, she said finally, quietly. Complete trust. That position, exposing vital organs, only occurs in presence of absolute safety. 30 minutes, the navigation officer announced. Parent Crix is... It's decelerating, matching station velocity. It knows? Kael'thas's mandibles clicked rapidly. It can sense them, the genetic markers. Can it sense their emotional state? Amelia asked. Silence. Then Vexia, very softly. We don't know. We've never had living specimens to study that aspect. But theoretically, if the cubs are broadcasting distress signals, the parent would respond with aggression. If they're broadcasting contentment... The smallest cub nuzzled into Amelia's hand, making that soft, inquisitive sound again. She scratched behind its ear, and its purring intensified, a sound that, according to every database in the galaxy, couldn't exist. On the command deck, every screen showed the same footage. A human sitting on a supply deck floor, 3 apex predators curled around her like house cats, one purring with its eyes closed in obvious bliss. 20 minutes, Kael'thas said. Williams, I'm going to ask you something insane. I'm listening. Will you meet the parent? With the cubs? Amelia looked at the 3 youngsters, all now pressed against her, comfortable and calm. She smiled. Yeah, she said. I can do that. Retry. It's not complicated, Amelia said, standing slowly while the cubs climbed to their feet around her. You read their body language like any frightened animal. Show them you're not a threat. Give them food, water, safe space. Build trust. She looked at the camera. Now they're calm, healthy, and ready to go home to Mom. You're actually going to do this. Zealak sounded like he was watching someone walk into an airlock without a suit. Yep. Amelia started toward docking bay 3, the cubs following her like ducklings. Someone want to open the bay doors, or should I override those too? The docking bay was empty when they arrived. Every crew member had evacuated to emergency shelters. Through the observation windows, Kael'thas and Vexia watched from the reinforced command post. The parent ship was already clamping onto the station, its hull scarred from what looked like 1,000 battles. 10 seconds, Kael'thas said quietly. The airlock cycled open. What emerged was nightmare given form. 12 feet of armored predator, spinal ridges like sword blades, talons that gouged furrows in the deck plating with each step. Its eyes, dozens of them, blazed with light that had crossed star systems to find its young. The cubs made a sound Amelia had never heard before, high-pitched, almost musical. They bounded forward, and the parent dropped to all fours as they swarmed over it, chirping and trilling. Those are happy vocalizations, Vexia breathed. I didn't know they existed. The parent Kyrix nuzzled each cub thoroughly, scent marking them, checking them for injuries. Then its head rose, and every eye focused on Amelia. She stood her ground, hands relaxed at her sides. The creature moved toward her, each step deliberate, powerful enough to crack deck plating. It could cross the distance in one leap, could tear her apart in seconds. Instead, it lowered its massive head until its nose was inches from Amelia's chest, sniffed deeply. Then it bowed. The great predator, apex hunter of a dozen systems, lowered itself into a posture of complete submission. "Hi," Amelia said softly. "Your kids are great. They just got lost, that's all. Got scared, couldn't find their way back. But they're okay now." The parent made a sound, deep, resonant, vibrating through the deck itself. "That's..." Vexia's voice cracked. "Gratitude. It's expressing gratitude. An apology? For the intrusion? For the stolen rations?" Amelia reached out slowly and touched the parent's scaled head. "No apology needed. Families take care of each other." The parent straightened, called to its cubs. They bounded back to it immediately, chattering and chirping, clearly telling their version of the adventure. The parent listened, nuzzled them again, then looked back at Amelia one final time. It made a sound, different from the others, almost questioning. "You're welcome," Amelia said. "Safe travels." The Kyrix family returned to their ship. The airlock sealed. Within minutes, they were gone, accelerating away from the station at impossible speeds. The command deck remained silent for a long moment. Then Kyle spoke, his voice careful. "Nothing in our protocols prepared us for this. Nothing in our training, our databases, our entire understanding of interspecies interaction prepared us for what just happened. The galactic predator response protocols are inadequate," Vexia said flatly. "Worse than inadequate, they're fundamentally wrong. We've been treating every apex species as mindless killing machines when they're actually..." She trailed off. "When they're actually what?" Zilax asked. "Complex emotional beings who respond to empathy and patience." Vexia looked at the footage of Amelia with the cubs. "Williams, I need to study your methods. Formally. Human-animal interaction protocols could revolutionize everything we know about xenobiology." Amelia was already walking back towards Supply Deck 7. "Sure. But first, someone needs to help me clean up all those protein bar wrappers. Place is a mess." 3 days later, Kyle stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, his report displayed across 100 screens in a dozen languages. "Emergency Protocol 7 has been updated," he said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was proposing. "Section 4 now includes mandatory clause. Consider human consultation before implementing lethal solutions to wildlife encounters." The council chamber erupted in debate, but the data was irrefutable. First peaceful Kyrix contact in recorded history. 0 casualties. 0 property damage beyond some stolen protein bars. Back on the station, Vexia was already drafting new protocols for the Galactic Predator Response Unit. Non-lethal compassion approaches now occupied an entire section of the manual. Her inbox overflowed with requests from 17 different species, all asking for human advisors on wildlife situations they'd previously considered unsolvable. "Human emotional intelligence exceeds our measurement parameters," Kael'thas had written in his official report. "Recommend comprehensive study of human-animal interaction methodologies for potential application across multiple xenobiological scenarios." The cosmic implications were staggering. If Kyrix, the species used as the benchmark for impossible to reason with, could respond to empathy and patience, How many other dangerous species had been misunderstood? How many conflicts had escalated unnecessarily? How many potential allies had been classified as permanent threats? Xenobiology departments across 50 systems were already requesting funding to re-examine every apex predator encounter in their databases. Meanwhile, in Supply Deck 7, Amelia was back to scanning cargo containers. "How did you know it would work?" Zillax asked, hovering in the doorway. He'd been asking variations of this question for 3 days. Amelia shrugged, not looking up from her datapad. Scared kids are scared kids. Doesn't matter if they've got 2 legs, 4 legs, or 6. Fear looks the same everywhere. But the risk wasn't really a risk once you actually looked at them. She marked off another container. They just needed someone to see past the teeth and claws to the terrified children underneath. In her office, Vexia replayed the security footage for the 100th time. The cubs playing with Amelia, the parents' submission display, the peaceful departure. She'd been analyzing every frame, every biometric reading, searching for the mechanism behind it all. Human pheromones? Some neurochemical humans produced that had a calming effect on other species, vocalization patterns that triggered parental instincts. Or was it simpler, just genuine kindness transcending species barriers, something so fundamental that even her sophisticated scanners couldn't quantify it? Her current hypothesis, which she'd never put in an official report because it sounded absurd. Humans projected emotional states that other species could sense on a level below conscious awareness. Safety, care, protection. Things that spoke to something deeper than language or biology. Or maybe Amelia Williams was just really good with animals. Amelia finished her shift and headed for the transit pod, yawning. Zillax caught up with her at the door. "I have one more question," he said. "Shoot." "You have pets on Earth?" "Yeah, a cat. Oliver, grumpy old orange tabby." She smiled. "Same principles, really. Patience, food, gentleness. Give them space when they need it, affection when they want it. Pretty universal stuff." Zillax's mandibles hung open. "You treat apex predators the same way you treat your pet?" Amelia laughed, bright and genuine. "Zill, you should see Oliver when he's hungry. Way scarier than those Crick's cubs. At least they didn't try to trip me when I was carrying their food." She waved and headed down the corridor, already thinking about what she wanted for dinner. Behind her, Zillax stood motionless, watching her go. Then he pulled up his datapad and started composing a message to Earth's Wildlife Management Bureau. If humans could accidentally revolutionize interspecies relations by treating apex predators like house cats, what else were they capable of? He had a feeling the galaxy was about to find out.